There's no doubt that Rome is the most Catholic city in the world. It is, after all, Roman Catholicism. But if you know where to look and you look closely, you'll find a surprising amount of Protestant history right here in Rome as well. Why don't you come along with me and we'll take a Protestant look at Catholic Rome.
It makes sense to begin at St. Peter's Basilica. Martin Luther wrote his 95 Theses in opposition to indulgences, and the indulgences that were being issued were being used then to finance the rebuilding of the Basilica. So ironically, without this building in the heart of Vatican City, there may not have been a Reformation at all.
Hi there. Hey, Scala Sancta? We're approaching the Scala Sancta here, the sacred stairs where pilgrims are known to go up on their knees, and if they do so successfully, there are indulgences available to them. Of course, Martin Luther famously came here, and this was part of what he did in an attempt to be holy enough for God, an attempt to prove his contrition before God, and yet this was another thing that he found empty, and he realized could not satisfy his soul and could not appease his God. One of the elements of Roman Catholic practice that so inflamed the Reformers was the system of indulgences. And a lot of Protestants think that indulgences are a past practice of Catholicism, not a present practice. But if you visit the Scala Sancta and read the placards on the way in, you'll see they're very much alive today. It says there, if you go on a Friday in Lent or one other time of your year and you go up those stairs on your knees, you'll receive a full indulgence. And that can also be applied to somebody in purgatory instead of to yourself. Or if you go other times of the year, you can get a partial indulgence. And so that system is alive and well, and you can see at any given time many, many people, 20, 30, 40 people going up the stairs on their knees, others going up the stairs on their feet, seeking those indulgences that continue to this day. Behind me is this remarkable sculpture that goes by the title, The Triumph of Faith Over Heresy. And as you look, you see Mary triumphing over two men who are being thrown into hell. There's a snake, a serpent all intertwined with them. If you look closely, you'll see the men have books going with them down into the pit. One of those books is labeled Martin Luther, the other is labeled John Calvin. So clearly what this is meant to communicate is the Church, Mary triumphing over the Protestant heretics. And this is why the Jesuit order exists, to triumph over Protestantism. So this sculpture, this piece of propaganda, very clearly, powerfully tells why the Jesuit order exists.
Our next stop is the nearby Church of St. Ignatius of Loyola. Inside you'll find another sculpture that's rather similar, and that makes a similar point.
We have the saint holding his constitutions of the Jesuit order, triumphing over, could be Martin Luther, just could be Protestantism in general. Here he is chewing his finger, he's in mortal agony, he's going down, he's clutching his forbidden Bible, he's got serpents coiled around him. A piece of propaganda that clearly states the Jesuits are triumphing over the Protestant movement.
Not too far from these churches is the Campo de' Fiori, and in the very center of the market square you'll find a statue of Giordano Bruno. He was a free thinker who was put to death here in 1600. Now, he wasn't a Christian, but on the statue there are some other free-thinking martyrs, including a few key Protestants who were put to death by Rome.
Here in the heart of Rome, on the banks of the Tiber, is this imposing fortress. It was built first in Roman times, but then rebuilt, reconstructed often through the years, put to many different uses. One of those was to hold prisoners, including some of those Protestant martyrs were held here, tried and then taken to nearby Market Square where they were put to death.
We unexpectedly found one more little piece of Protestant history. As we toured the Vatican museums, we learned that there was a little memento of the Reformation even here. In 1527, German soldiers sacked Rome. The troops even went into the Raphael rooms of what's now the Vatican museums, where they roughly carved the name Luther onto the walls. And in fact, they did it on a painting titled Disputation of the Holy Sacrament. You'll need to look carefully, but you can find it there to this day. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot more to be found. So if your road leads you to Rome, why don't you look at it through Protestant eyes? You never know what you'll find. Martin Luther insisted that it's the doctrine of justification that marks a church that will stand or collapse. That doctrine stood at the heart of the Protestant Reformation, and it still stands at the heart of the distinction between the Protestant and the Roman Catholic faiths. Michael Horton's tremendous 2-volume work on justification explores both historical theology and contemporary challenges. He shows why it remains a crucial doctrine that we must know and understand and defend. It's available right now wherever good books are sold.